medicine that trains your body to fight any foreign agents.
Plants are helpful for the ecosystem.
It's an electronic device for storing and processing data.
The nervous system is all the collection of nerves in your body.
Yeast is a eukaryote.
Welcome to Spectacular Science, where it's all about science, with your host, Akshay.
Hey listeners, welcome back to this episode of Spectacular Science. I'm your host, Akshay. Concrete. It is all around you and you don't even recognize it. The sidewalk, that's made of concrete. The roads that you drive on, that's also concrete. The house that you might be in, that's also concrete. And even skyscrapers in big cities, those are also made of concrete. And so many other things in your everyday life are made of concrete. But how is concrete itself made? And how is it used in our everyday lives? Well, in this episode, I want to take you into a deep dive into the science of concrete and how it gets its unique chemical and physical properties. So what is concrete? Well, concrete is the most widely used building material. Concrete is an artificial or human-made stone, and it is strong and very long-lasting, and it can be made into almost any shape. Concretes are used in driveways, patios, roads, bridges, and even entire buildings. Now, how is concrete actually made? Now, let's break it down by the ingredients. One of the main ingredients of concrete is a fine powder called cement. Concrete is made by mixing cement with sand, gravel, and water. The water and cement form a thick paste that holds the sand and gravel together. The water also causes a chemical reaction that makes the mixture dry and harden. Before concrete dries, it can be poured out into different shapes to make different forms, and that's including blocks, bricks, flat slabs, and arches. After concrete dries, it can last for several years without cracking or breaking. Concrete does not burn, and it stays strong during a fire. Materials can also be added to concrete to make it stand up to heat, water, or chemicals. It can be made light or heavy in weight, and some concrete walls will even harden underwater. Concrete with metal bars running through it is called reinforced concrete, and it's even stronger than regular concrete and can support heavy loads. Reinforced concrete is used to make roads, bridges, and very tall buildings. Concrete has been around for thousands of years, and it all started with clay and gravel, which the ancient people used to make pots and even to build the ancient pyramids that you see today. And concrete is a very widely used material because of all of its very strong properties. The properties make concrete stand up to almost anything and make it the number one most widely used building material in the world. Now, there's a common misconception about concrete, and it's dealing with the names. Some people use concrete and cement interchangeably, or they use it to mean the same thing, but really, it's not the same thing. Concrete is a mix of rocks, powders, chemicals, and water. And when the concrete hardens, it becomes a very strong building material. Cement is actually an ingredient in concrete. Cement is a powder that is made of calcined lime, a type of rock, and calcium hydroxide, a powdery chemical. And that's actually an element of that concrete. And cement helps give concrete its strength and its ability to be a liquid at first, but turn into a solid after drying. Without cement, there would be no concrete. Now, concrete really is all around us. Like, foundations of houses have concrete because concrete is really strong and can support the weight of the entire house. And sidewalks are made of concrete because they're really durable and they can resist people walking over it. And the same goes with roads and bridges and even giant skyscrapers. Whole skyscrapers are sometimes made of concrete, or at least the frames are made of concrete, because this actually holds all the structures together to make it into a very, very, very strong building. Even though concrete is a really, really strong material, sometimes over hundreds of years, it can start to wear out. And this is through a process called weathering and erosion. Weathering and erosion are two different processes. Weathering is when pieces of that concrete break apart, and erosion is when those pieces get transported over long distances. That can be through water, wind, or even rain and other things that will move all that concrete. So the concrete can be dissolved by other things such as moss, which will actually start to break apart the chemical compounds that are inside of the concrete and start to seep in and break all those apart. So concrete is a really strong material, but it still does have its weaknesses. But this is, again, only over hundreds of years when the concrete starts to wear out. And moss really grows on concrete well. But it's a really harsh environment for moss to grow because there's no soil, but there's only like a little bit of water when it rains. But the moss is still able to power through and grow in the tiny little pieces in the concrete. They're small little granulations, or basically little holes inside the concrete where the moss and other algae and basically any other plant that can fit in that area can grow, and that starts to break the concrete apart. And some of those plants actually release an acid that starts to break apart the chemical compounds inside of those concrete. And that is why concrete is a very good building material, but it can't be very relied in nature. And if you especially if you build it in the middle of the wilderness, it'll start to weather away because it's not being maintained as well. That's why if you see tree roots growing under a sidewalk and the sidewalk is starting to basically rip into two pieces, that's an example of a weakness of concrete. But again, concrete is one of the best building materials, and it is all around us, from the sidewalks to the foundation of our homes to giant skyscrapers. And it's just powder and water that turns into sludge that then turns into a giant building. It's so cool just think about this and the big role that concrete plays in our lives. You know, I should go invent a concrete that's actually resistant to all of this. You know what? What should I call it? Longevity concrete. Oh, I gotta work on the name. But before I go, what did we learn today? We learned that concrete is a building material that's made up of water, chemicals, and lots of rocks. And this causes a very strong material that's able to be molded into different shapes because it's that liquid at first and then turns into a solid. Concrete is widely used in our world, from skyscrapers to homes to even patios and sidewalks. But concrete does have its weaknesses, even though it lasts a long time. If it's in the middle of the wilderness and nature starts to overtake it, it can start to weather and erode, which can mean some bad things for the concrete. But if the concrete is well maintained, it can last for a long time. Concrete really plays a huge role in our lives and makes up a lot of things. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Spectacular Science. Spectacular Science produced and hosted by me, Akshay J. Raman. Our theme song is by Charan Ramachandran. Special thanks to Varun Ramachandran. Please visit my podcast website, spectacularsci.com, to find interactive activities, blog posts, articles, and all of our episodes. You can also find the link to sign up for the Spectacular Science membership, where you get lots of bonus content to keep you thinking about science. My favorite of those is the fact of the day, when you get a fun science fact every day. Sign up at spectacularsci.com/membership. Please follow or subscribe to this show on any podcasting platform or wherever you're listening right now. It really encourages me when you subscribe, and it means a lot. Thank you so much. I always love hearing from my listeners about science, and I just love interacting with my listeners. So So please contact me at spectacularsci.com/contact or email me using the link posted on the page. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and we'll see you on the next episode of Spectacular Science next week. Keep thinking about science.